Okay, I'm recording now.
Yes.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. We start with chapter 10. Chapter 10. I guess we dealt with chapter 9 and we discussed the importance of chapter 9, how it portrayed the relationship between Sissy and her father compared to the relationship of Louisa and her father. And there is a kind of comparison between these two relationships, and we call it under the title of a theme, parent-child relationship. When we talk about Sissy and her father Jup relationship compared to Louisa Gradgrind relationship, there is a kind of difference between these two aspects. Chapter 10, the writer shifts to a totally different topic. First, we encounter a new character. His name is Stephen Blackpool. Stephen Blackpool. As I think I have introduced Stephen earlier when we talked in the early beginning of the novel. We said that one of the major problems the novel talks about is the Industrial Revolution, the divorce law, the social class conditions, and I told you that these three issues are represented by one character. His name is Stephen Blackpool. That will come later, and now this later has come now. Stephen Blackpool. We understand that Victorian England was suffering from the negative effects of the Industrial Revolution at that time, and how workers lived very bad conditions, and how they used to go to work very early in the morning and return home very late at the evening, how they were struggling with their circumstances, and in spite of that they received very little wages for that. So here the writer tries to discuss this issue. The writer here starts with a little description of Coketown, describing it in the hardest working part of Coketown, in the innermost fortification. A little description of Coketown and how it has been very ugly, where nature was strongly bricked, طبيعة المدينة strongly bricked out, as killing airs and gases were bricked in. Description للindustrial side of life. شوفوا هنا عندنا killing airs because of the smoke أكيد, والgases were bricked in at the heart of the labyrinth. يصورها وكأنها متاهة of narrow courts upon courts and close streets upon streets. This is the reflection of monotony, as we said in the previous chapters when we talked about Coketown. The writer tries to reflect the monotony, الرتابة والملل of when he said the infirmary is just like a police station. المشفى وكأنه يشبه police station. The buildings look alike, the streets look alike. It tries to evoke this kind of monotonous sense. Then the writer talks about the people of the city, the working class, and how they are generically called the hands. يسموهم the hands. They don't even have names. طبعا هذا من يعني from the perspective of the state, let's say, just like the fact system calls the students as with numbers, they don't have names. Here they try to let's say try to consider those people as just like working bodies. They don't have existence, they don't have any desires, any well-being or any identity, so they consider them just like machines, the hands. So يعني اختصروا وجود ذول human beings with only the hands, because they work with their own hands. a race who would have found more favor with some people if Providence had seen fit to make them only hands. Or like the lower creatures of the seashore, only hands and stomachs. Lived a certain Stephen Blackpool, 40 years of age. يظهر عندنا شخصية هذا الإنسان who is 40 years of age, only 40 years old. Then the writer tries to highlight his character. Stephen looked older, but he had a hard life. It is said that every life has its roses and thorns. وكأنه مقولة. Every life has its roses and thorns. كل حياة بها شيء جميل وشيء سيء. Roses الورود وthorns الأشواك. There seemed, however, to have been a misadventure or mistake in Stephen's case, whereby somebody else had become possessed of his roses, and he had become possessed of the same body's else's thorns in addition to his own. واضحة. يعني يصور لنا الكاتب انه كل حياة شخص بها ورود وبها اشواك، بها جانب ايجابي طيب وجانب سلبي مشاكل. ولكن يبدو ان حياة ستيفن is different from other people، لانه يبدو انه هو الروزز مالته امتلكها شخص اخر، وستيفن امتلك الثونز مال ذلك الشخص besides his own thorns، بالاضافة الى الاشواك مالته. So his life is very miserable as portrayed here. He had known to use his words, a peck of trouble. He cannot pronounce words clearly. He has a problem with his own language, a reference to his very low education. He was an uneducated person, so he cannot even talk in a correct way. And this has been evident through the grammar of his language. His grammar is incorrect. He was usually called Old Stephen. عادة ما يسمونه Old Stephen in a kind of rough homage of the fact. لأنه هو يبدو أكبر من عمره، أكبر من 40 سنة. A rather stooping man. Description للcharacter of Stephen. A rather stooping منحني because of hard work, with a knitted brow, a pondering expression of face, and a hard-looking head sufficiently capacious on which his iron grey hair شعره الأشيب lay long and thin. Old Stephen might have passed for a particularly intelligent man in his condition, yet he was not intelligent. He took no place among those remarkable hands. حال الباقين. No, he is not remarkable among those people who, piecing together their broken intervals of leisure through many years. He was a good power loom. اللوم يعني آلة الحياكة، يستخدمون النساجين، لأنه ستيفن يشتغل في اللومينج ماشين، ماكينة للحياكة. And a man of perfect integrity. أمين وصادق ونظيف. What more he was, or what else he had in him, if anything, let him show for himself. The writer highlights the workers as hands. He keeps highlighting this issue in order to show those people as nothing, as people who only can work. And this is a kind of summary of their life. They just were born to work in these places to serve the capitalists, to serve the money owners. And of course the writer does not forget to mention that those workers include men and women. It is not only men who work in these mills في هذه المصانع, boy and girl. And also there are underage people who work, like children, were clattering home. Old Stephen was standing in the street with the old sensation upon him which the stoppage of the machinery always produced. Yet I don't see Rachel or Rachel still, he said. Another character is presented along with Stephen, Rachel or Rachel. It was a wet night, and many groups of young women passed him with their shawls drawn over their bare heads and held close under their chins to keep the rain out. So he was waiting for his friend, a female named Rachel. He knew Rachel well. For a glance at any one of these groups was sufficient to show him that she was not there. So لمحة بسيطة على كثير من النساء اللي موجودات راح تخليه يميز انه this lady is not whom he is expecting. مو هي راشيل اللي دا ينتظرها. This gives us an idea that he knows this woman very well, and there might be a kind of intimacy or a kind of a close relationship between them. At last there were no more to come, and then he turned away, saying in a tone of disappointment, "Why then, ha missed her." Later, she turned, being then in the brightness of a lamp, and raising her hood a little. The presentation of the character of Rachel showed a quiet oval face, وجهها بيضاوي, dark and rather delicate, eradicated by a pair of very gentle eyes, and further set off by the perfect order of her shining black hair. It was not a face in its first bloom. She was a woman 35 years of age. كان عمرها 35 سنة. Ah lad, it's thou. Here you are, he means. When she had said this with a smile which would have been quite expressed, I thought you wast ahind me, Rachel. See, this is how the writer reflects the character of Stephen as an educated person, a person who cannot pronounce words correctly. I thought, though, you wast means was. Behind me, Rachel. No, early tonight, lass. Times I am a little early. Stephen, times a little late. Yani sometimes I am early and sometimes I am late. So he looked at her with some disappointment in his face, but with a respectful and patient conviction. Now, hints and evidences are presented here, which show that the writer tries to tell us that there is a kind of connection between these two people, Stephen and Rachel. We are such true friends, lad, and such old friends, and getting to be such old folk now. Thou art as young as ever thou wast. Yani you are very young, just like you have been before. And this kind of conversation continues between them, which reflects their a close relationship. I have tried a long time and it ain't got better. It didn't got better, but thou art right. I might make folk talk even of thee. Folk, yani people, الناس, make talk even of thee. Thou has been that to me, Rachel, through so many years. Thou has done me so much good and heartened of me. Anyway, these kind of words reflect their close relationship. Here, let the laws be, and it's a model, and that's all. All means all, that's all. It's a model. A model يعني الحياة موحلة, الحياة متعبة, الحياة تعيسة for him. So he considers life as a very bad life because of his bad circumstances. He is very poor. He cannot have enough money to live a proper life, and he works very hard, and he is old now. So life to him is very bad. That's why he considers it as a model. Then they separate from each other, and the writer tries to describe the setting of the events here. It was a room. Now we are in the room of Stephen. It was a room not unacquainted with the black ladder and their various tenants. A black ladder, سلم أسود. You know, these colors are significant. They evoke يعني dismal weather. تنطينا انطباع سيء. هاي الألوان البلاك والجراي وباقي الأشياء. But as neat at present as such a room could be. غرفة صغيرة ولكنها مرتبة. A few books and writings were on an old bureau in a corner. كانت هنالك قليل من الكتب والكتابات على مكتب في الزاوية. The furniture was decent and sufficient, and though the atmosphere was tainted, the room was clean. كانت الغرفة نظيفة. Going to the hearth, الموقد مال النار, to set the candle down. He stumbled يعني تعثر against something, تعثر بشيء ما. As he recoiled looking down at it, it raised itself. رفعت نفسها up into the form of a woman, وطلعت انه هذه امرأة in a sitting attitude. Heaven's mercy, women. Oh my God, women, he cried, falling farther. وقع بعيدا. Hast thou come back again? هم رجعتي مرة ثانية? Such a woman. Look at this chapter. We have the character of Stephen, the character of Rachel, and this woman are all presented in one chapter. So this is significant. Such a woman as a disabled, غير قادرة على الحركة, drunken creature, drunken يعني سكران, barely able to preserve her sitting posture, بالكاد تستطيع أن تجلس, by steadying herself with one begrimed hand on the floor while the other was so purposeless in trying to push away her tangled hair from her face. So this is how this woman is portrayed. Now we started hating her from the very beginning because she is drunk and she cannot sit herself and she cannot move. She seems to be just like a burden. وكأنها ثقل. It only blinded her the more. A creature so fool to look at. من القبيح جدا أن تنظر إليها. In her tatters, stains and splashes. After an impatient oath or two and some stupid declawing, she sat swaying her body to and fro. شايفين الشخص اللي ما يسيطر على نفسه شلون يتحرك يمين ويسار أمام وخلف, and making gestures with her unnerved arm, which seemed intended as the accompaniment to a fit of laughter. Hey lad, what are you there? What? You are there. Some hoarse sounds meant for this came mockingly out of her at last, and her head dropped forward on her breast. يعني they يقول لها, why did you come back here? She said, back again. She screeched, صرخت. After some minutes, as if he had at that moment said it, yes, and back again, نعم أعود, and again, back again, ever and ever so often. يعني أظل أروح وأرجع أرجع ما أتركك. Yes, back, why not? I will sell thee off again, and I will sell thee off again, and I will sell thee off a score of times, many times, she cried, with something between a furious menace and an effort at a defiant dance. Come away from the bed. وخري عن السرير مالتي, and she refused. It's mine. I have right of it. And comes the chapter to its end, to the conclusion. So the writer tried here to reflect Victorian England and how it is portrayed through the description of Coketown as a city of coke, of smoke, of gases and polluted air. It is unsuitable for living. So how about those workers who live and eat and sleep and work in this atmosphere? So it's a kind of a criticism for that setting. Stephen, as portrayed as a kind of a suffering character under these circumstances. Now we understand that Stephen is living a very bad life